Welcome everybody to our latest webinar with Launch Control and Left Main. We're going to be going over the new integration today. So I'm just going to go ahead and get us kicked off. For those of you that maybe don't know, Launch Control is a leading text marketing platform that connects people through the power of personalized messaging. They use AI to create custom messages, blending traditional techniques with new tech for genuine connections. In 3 years, they've become the US's largest tech-enabled real estate network, ranked #1 in text marketing for real estate investors, while Left Main is a top-tier CRM designed for the real estate industry. Powered by SalesForce, the platform simplifies real estate data management by offering comprehensive organization, detailed reporting, and intuitive dashboards, providing real estate professionals with a turnkey solution for managing their leads, contacts, and team operations. We have an awesome team here today to demonstrate how this integration works seamlessly. So first off, we have Michael, who heads up SMS strategy and solutions at Launch. He helps companies create integrated engagement models that leverage text to optimize omni-channel marketing that increases efficiency and establishes recipient-first threads that drive business growth. He loves chatting about the future of SMS and representing Launch with valued media partners. While Stephanie Betters is the co-founder of Better Path Homes, a single-family residential and wholesaling and new build company in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's also the founder of Left Main, a CRM for real estate professionals, and the founder of Social Media REI, a Facebook marketing company specializing in finding motivated sellers. They'll be working in tandem today with Beatrice Felicis to demonstrate this all to you. Before I let these guys kick off, I just want to let you all know that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for you to rewatch at our webinar library at leftmainacademy.com. But as always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to come off mic at any time or post them in the chat and I can relay them to these guys. With that, I think we're ready to get started if you guys are ready to go too.
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to kick off, Michael? Want to talk about what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, let's take it all the way back and talk about why we're doing this right from the beginning. Because I think
We should start with our why. That's good advice.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about this. I know a lot of people in the real estate industry that they grow up in stages with their CRMs, and to have them end up in a place like Left Main is exactly where we want them to end up. It's very scalable, and it fits really well into what we preach to people, which is to really have a system in place from the very beginning that you can grow with, so that you're able to use different forms of marketing and bring all those forms of marketing together. So when we first started these conversations about having this integration, I just thought it was really a perfect pairing of being able to match really good engagement and nurture processes with a CRM that is fully equipped to help you just bring home any deal and track your own success on the back end.
Yeah, and coming from our perspective, why this is such a huge win for us too and our users is really this ongoing mission of having a center of truth. Especially in real estate, we have so much data, and we're pulling lists and prospects, and we're mailing, we're texting, we're doing all these things with all these different data sets, and they're all really fragmented. And there's a huge inefficiency cost there with not really having it all centralized in one place where it's easy to do outreach, it's easy to stack, it's easy to measure which ones are most successful. Just data in our industry is a huge nut to crack. So, one of the reasons why I was excited about this integration too is being able to centralize that. So you don't have a bunch of stuff in Launch, you have a bunch of stuff in your CRM, a bunch of stuff on Google Drive, right? Like, let's get it all into one place.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I love about the source of truth thing, I don't really like that phrase source of truth, but the concept behind it I do, because it's really easy to recognize opportunity when you've got all the pieces in front of you, right? When you've got them all spread out, it's really difficult to see, well, actually, if I took all of these leads that I got coming in from direct mail that didn't close, and I re-engaged them with SMS, I could probably pop them right back into Left Main and have them be really hot leads. you don't see those simple connections when everything is very spread out. But when you have that source of truth, and you can, as we'll see in a second when Beatrice and I go through the demonstration, and you can track an ongoing conversation or an ongoing automation in launch right in Left Main, that can generate a ton of really bright ideas for new engagement paths you can take, or new chances you can take to get that homeowner at that decision making point.
Right. It's hard to see until you can see it, which is, it's, very simplified way of saying it, but it's the simplicity that is the genius, right? Because now you can actually see where to, you're playing chess, you're just, instead of playing in a mess, you get to play chess. And, I get real fired up about stuff like this because, especially with the state of the market now and all the turbulence that we've all felt in the last year, this is the era of the professional, and having really good data clarity and integrations with all the different tools you're using gives you a gigantic leg up, and it's the difference between stability and growth and instability, right? Like just this one thing, with getting this clarity. So I get real fired up about it. It's a way for us to do better business and to do more business and to stay in business, especially when things are tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when things get tough, that's when you really open your eyes to new opportunities or new ways to expand things.
Got to innovate.
So yeah, and one of the ways that I think we can innovate is really through marketing growth, and like you said, playing chess with our marketing. And one of the ways that I think that an integration like this is going to be really pivotal, use your words, to that approach is, in REI, typically we're interacting with a very small set of people that are out of options in most cases, or have limited options, right? So we're speaking to them at the point when they need to make a decision, and so is everyone else. But there's a very big circle outside of that of considerers, people that may not even know that the solutions that people on this call can provide exist, and don't think that they're at that point yet anyway, right? And so, but they probably are, or they're getting close. And so there's this amazing nurture potential to just really widen the net of who we're talking to, and use the tools that are going to be available in both Launch and Left Main to be there, guide them through that nurture process, and be ready to provide solutions when they come to that point of realization, right? But that point of realization hits before anybody else would have started sending them text messages or sending them direct mailers or any of that, because we caught them early in the decision-making process. We're going to have the tools here through this integration to pull off just that.
Visibility is everything. Let's dive into it. I'm excited to
Let's do
ready.
it. Okay, so what we'll do, everyone, Beatrice and I will go through a quick walkthrough of what this integration looks like in Launch, and then we'll hand things over to Stephanie. She'll run through it from the CRM side, and then we'll be open to questions. So any question you guys have, we'll make sure that we save time at the end to go over those. All right, so what we're looking at here is the Launch dashboard. Now, I know that some of you are already using Launch Control, others of you aren't. So the way that I want to kind of distinguish things, I'm not going to dive into everything on the dashboard here, but the way I see it is Launch Control, at least in terms of sending text engagement, this is your from first touch point engagement and nurture cycle, right? You want to get people up to the point of, and this is the KPI that I think is the most important thing, is up to the point of discovery call, right? Because if you can get them to the point where they're willing to jump on a call with you or your team to have that discovery call, this is no longer a question of marketing. It's no longer a question of nurturing. At this point, it's sales processes, right? It's math. If you guys get 25 discovery calls in the course of the month, how many of those did you close? And the answer to closing more, of course, is not going to be to send more text messages. It's going to be fine tuning what you say on discovery call and how you provide solutions, right? So the KPI that we want to build up to in launch is teeing up discovery calls. Because at that point, it's a simple math equation to how much money you're going to make and how quickly you can grow, right? So when you look at this dashboard, this is a question of how can I look at what I'm seeing to improve my nurture processes, to improve my engagement processes in order to deliver more discovery calls, because that's where I know I'm going to make my money, right? So with that in mind, where you're going to be having most of your engagement, at least for inbound messages coming in and those active conversations, is going to be in your inbox. So Beatrice is going to jump over there real quick. Okay, so your inbox and launch, this is, the thing that's most important for people to keep in mind here is that this is what you see. What the homeowner sees is the message on their phone never shows up, right? It's the message on their phone. They're holding their phone in their hand and you have their captive attention. So what are you going to do with that captive attention to try to, again, push to that point of discovery call, right? And keeping in mind what we said before, not everybody is going to be 30 to 60 day sell ready. So how can you build trust, nurture, and find the right line with that person? Your first insights are going to be here in the inbox, right? Now, what I love about this integration, and Beatrice, can you open up for the fill text request? Just open up that. Yeah, there we are. Can you jump over to the Left Main instance so we can see that record in Left Main as well? Okay, so you've got this ongoing conversation, right? You have the captive attention, you're communicating with this person, and let's say that conversation dies down for the day. You've got a full historical record of the conversation that you have with that particular homeowner in Left Main. So that source of truth puts it right there. Now, what Stephanie and I were saying about getting creative, this is where this gets really fun, right? Because you can start to see if, for instance, and I'll show you guys a drip automation in a second, but if you've got someone on a drip automation and you're watching this play out and you think, you know what, I'm going to try here. I haven't tried this yet. I've got this person's email address. This is an action that I can take through Left Main, and I can do it right here. I'm gonna send them a message in launch and say something like, "Hey, if it would be easier, I can email you some more details about, how to sell your house subject to," right? It's something they probably don't know anything about. Or, here I'm going to send you some information about 3 or 4 ways to increase your home's value. Thought that might be useful for you. Is email easier? And they say, yeah, sure. Right now you've got them on another channel. You're sending them information that's helping them to engage, and you did it by having this dual system that works together. Right? Launch control is sending the engagement messages automated in the background, and you're looking for inspiration here in Left Main, where you're going to be spending a larger part of your time anyway. So it gives you that source of truth that Stephanie was mentioning. Beatrice, you want to jump back real quick to launch control? So within launch control, just in case you guys aren't familiar with what the drip automations are, Beatrice, can you open up just the drip automation builder so we can see what some of those are? Oh, this is fine. Okay. So that view. These are different drip automations that have been saved into the system. Now, what's really interesting about this is because you still have them in that sort of dual view, right? So let's say that you were able to get them on a phone call, and you got half the discovery details that you needed, but you didn't get everything, right? And all of their notes, everything, it's in Left Main, you got it, but they're still active in launch control. You can put them then on a post-discovery drip where you're following up that conversation. You're picking up the conversation at the point that it ended. And you're able to use SMS in an automated way to carry on that conversation and push it towards close. So you can get really creative with the ways that you use the two systems together. And, I think one of the things that we'll continue to do as part of this partnership is just brainstorm some ideas about exactly what those crossover opportunities will be, and kind of give you guys a few chess moves and let you run from there, right? So I think the last thing that will show, there was a couple of things to look out for that I was going to mention, but I think we could probably cover that in the Q&A. So Beatrice, if you want to just go to the settings and show them where to find the integration. All right, so in settings and then under integrations, you guys will see right front and center there is the Left Main REI integration. This one's active. To activate it, it's a simple 3-step process to follow. And if you already have a launch control account, you got a bunch of data in there, it may take a few minutes to map that data over. If you've got nothing in there and you're starting at launch control fresh, it's going to take seconds and you'll be activated, right? So, from here, I think, Stephanie, I'll hand it over to you. We'll look at it from your side a bit, and then we'll get to the Q&A.
Perfect. Okay. So I will pick up from right here. Okay. So from a user standpoint, essentially when you're working those leads in here, this is going to automatically sync, just like Michael outlined. So when you click verified, as this number is verified, that's going to sync that over to the Left Main side. And it's going to create a new lead versus a new prospect, depending on the temperature that you choose. So for example, just from the normal processing of leads in here or of prospects in here, if you choose hot or warm, it's going to create a brand new lead. So it'll come to the top of your list inside Left Main as a brand new lead from Launch Control, and that being a verified homeowner. So again, you can either click right here. If your user in Launch Control has a license in Left Main also, they can jump right to that there. But this integration does not require all of your Launch Control users to have Left Main licenses. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to mention that, because you may have a VA or a team member who's just working in Launch Control, and that's perfectly fine. Everything they do in here is going to automatically sync in the Left Main side. But if they want to jump right to a record, they can. So I'll jump through and we'll take a look. I think this is Frank, into this record here. So this brings up our lead record. And again, all that conversation history is here. So if I don't have visibility into Launch Control and I'm a team member that only has Left Main access and I have no idea what they've been said in Launch Control, I still can follow along right from that conversation. So I can say, oh, great, my colleague Bella just sent me over your information, and you're right up to speed with everything that was said and how it was said and for how long they've been talking, so that you can say, oh, has he been talking to Bella for, almost a year? My goodness, I'm excited to talk to you too, and pick up that conversation and have that relationship continue forward. So that piece is really important. And it's kind of nice to note that you don't necessarily have to have double dip licenses. So you can have people, stay in their swim lane. But from there, you'll pick this up and mark this as working and go ahead and give them a call. All right. And then you can pick up on all the normal Left Main features that you love. If you haven't seen Left Main before, I'll just kind of do a quick little scan here of what you can see. We have other automation in here that will bring in emails, text messages and tasks, direct mail automation, and campaign history automation. So I'll come back to campaign in just a minute, because what Michael said about syncing is really important to mention what happens with campaigns here also in that center of truth. But we can see here that Frank was converted by Launch Control. We've actually have a negative contacted because we talked to him already in Launch Control from the time that he was created. So we've done a really great job in contacting him right away. I can click to dial right out of the system, and I can get more information about this person after I talk to them. All right, so there's your little script from your communication. We can see all activity logs here, and do some cool things like check out on Zillow and do some property analysis in here as well. It's a cool little automation that we have with Atom Data. This was an apartment, so this is a real life example. We can take a peek at where this property is and where potential comps are right on the map. And we can zoom in and interact with this and have a really intelligent conversation with people. That's just a quick review of what a lead looks like in Left Main if you aren't a user already. If you want more information on this, we can dig into that in another call. But in that same vein of center of truth, you may have spent a decent amount of time uploading all of your lists into Launch Control. All right. And I'll pop back over here really quick to outline those campaigns. Many, many campaigns over the years, or here recently if you're a brand new user. When you sync, all of these campaign members are also going to come over here as prospects. So you can keep track of all of your lists simultaneously in both places, right? So all those campaign members are in here, and you can see that we have a ton that have synced in the system from all kinds of different lead sources. All right. So now I can see, what campaigns are populating the most amount of leads and most amount of prospects. Why is that important? Well, I want to know which list was best, right? And how do I know which list was best? Typically, that's the list that you get a deal out of, right? But not necessarily. We can actually distill that down into other steps that tell us which lists are being the most successful. And that means that these are the people we're able to get a hold of, people that we're able to qualify, people we're able to set appointments with, and then of course get deals. But it's a piece of the puzzle of the pipeline of getting them to the deal that help us make decisions on which list was doing the best. So one of the awesome features of SalesForce and Left Main are dashboard reporting. So here's an example of a launch control dashboard, which gives us that visibility from both buckets, right? From the launch control bucket and everything that's happening there with the campaigns that are being created, how they're being rated, and how they're being managed inside of your CRM. So this seems like it should be obvious, but this is brand new. This is first to market with an integration like this and bringing that center of truth in, which is really exciting to see. So me as an operator, I want to be able to quickly and easily answer that question: which lead source is doing the best and which list is doing the best, right? So I'm able to answer that question here really thoroughly. So just an example, which leads were tagged as hot in Launch Control? All right, here's the list of leads that were marked as hot and how they were segmented based on the list that we pulled. So you can see that we pull a ton of different lists from all kinds of different list sources. But the one that created the most amount of hot leads was this 80/20 list from August that was actually marked as low. If you guys know 80/20, they're a great data provider. And they give you hot and cold lists essentially. And then they make some recommendations on who to follow up when based on temperature. And ironically, their August one created the most amount of hot leads, even though it was marked as low in August. So this is very interesting. Maybe that was not something intuitive. That would not have been intuitive to me, because I would have thought, hey, the high and the urgent ones would have created the most amount of leads. But clearly something is changing, right? A couple months have gone by and the people on this low list are now hot. So I get visibility into that, right? And I can go back to my marketing team and say, hey, this list is interesting now. We should do more with this list. They're the highest likely to be a hot lead. So let's go back to Launch Control and text all those people on that list again. Let's shake some trees. All right. And really same thing kind of shakes down here too with what's in the drip sequence: cold, warm, and nurture. All right. And over here too, this is looking at prospects. So these are not opt-ins yet. So you'll notice that these are cold, drip, and nurture. These will not be hot or warm because they are prospects in the system here at Left Main, and our prospects and in nurture sequences over there in Launch Control. So we can see which segment of list is in that category in both places. So the biggest segment right now is this July cold texting list that we got from 80/20 and so forth. So we have that visibility from both teams on what's happening. Okay. And as we scroll down here a little bit, I can look at how many conversations are happening in Launch Control. So this month we've had just shy of 7,800 conversations happening in Launch Control. So just like we want to know what our inbound calls, outbound calls, text messages go, we want to see that here from Launch Control as well. So we can help this to measure all of our KPIs for our lead management team or our marketing team. So I get visibility on how many conversations are happening, period, even though I'm not in Launch Control right this moment. And these are, of course, all tied to people in the system. So if I want to dig deeper and follow that thread and try to figure out what happened, I can do that right from here. And same thing with incoming text messages. So the next question is, okay, which campaign, just like we kind of answered here, and this is in line with what we are expecting based on what I see in hot, but which text message campaign inside Launch Control was most likely to give a response to me? And again, that was that low 80/20 list. So we got 952 responses to all those outbound text messages. So really, really compelling information. All right. And then I can dig down, I can follow this. So I can click on that segment of people and I can have visibility into what that looks like. So who are those people that we were talking to? And then I can go right to that record. So let's see what Tia's up to. And I can follow that. Looks like this one actually ended up being qualified. So we have an appointment set with this person. So you see how I can kind of follow that thread and really understand what's happening and get clear visibility on all those KPIs. Center of truth. I'll stop there too in case there's questions. I don't want to go too nerdy. Nerd warning. I should have given a nerd warning at the beginning, but that's how the two systems all work together.
That's awesome, guys. I have quite a few questions in the chat we can get started with. And if anyone wants to just come off mic at any time, please feel free. But to start us off, there is an anonymous attendee that's wondering if the drip campaign templates will be shared.
Well, in launch control, you have the opportunity to create your own drip campaigns based off of the, like I said, the exit point of a conversation or what you're hoping to achieve by that conversation. So, like Stephanie just pointed out, for instance, that there was a set of 80/20 data that was marked as low, right? Not the really expected to be hot leads. Now, I'm just going off of an assumption here. You have to A/B test everything in marketing, of course. But my assumption with those is that what generally gets marked as hot are people that are in pre-foreclosure or are, they have a ticking clock of 60 days or less. And we know that based off of data factors, right? Which means that they're on everyone's list and they're getting a lot of touch points. And it's at the end of the decision-making cycle. Whereas somebody who is in that low category and is still in the considerer phase, that person is not getting nearly as many touch points from real estate investors. They may be getting very few at that point because they haven't hit that 60-day window, right? That ticking clock. So you can have drip automations that are specifically geared towards building trust from those quote unquote low opportunities or not as highly motivated opportunities, which just gives you a really, really excellent opportunity to get in early, build trust, and earn their business before they ever get close to that 60-day window.
That's huge, right? That follow-up piece is absolutely huge. That relationship continuing and being right there in the center when their mind changes, when their situation changes.
All right. I have Donovan who's wondering how much is 80/20 data? I know it probably varies, just wondering for a general area.
Ooh, I probably should have been prepared for that answer. It's relatively expensive. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to misquote you, but I'm happy to, if Donovan, if you want to email me, Stephanie at leftmainrei.com, I'm happy to make an introduction for you.
It's funny, Stephanie. I did a podcast probably about a month ago, and I got asked that exact question, and I said the exact same thing that you just did.
Like, shoot, I should have known that. I don't remember.
Exactly. I was like, oh, come on. I could say Jesus. I should know this, but
I know. Yeah.
Awesome. So Jason Burns says here, we're not currently using launch control for cold outbound texting because we are not comfortable with the legal risk. What would you say the best practices to be around this to minimize legal and compliance risk?
So in terms of compliance, there are two different forms of compliance. There's TCPA compliance, which is federal regulations. That's very macro and it applies mostly to auto dialers. And so if you're doing outreach as prospecting, you're not directly selling a product or service, which wholesalers aren't, from a federal legality standpoint, you're fine. The place where the other side of compliance is carrier compliance. That's a B2B relationship that you're managing, and they're enforcing their best practices. So where you see people have trouble getting messages through, or they have accounts get shut down, that is management of a B2B relationship with the carriers. There's no legal risk. You just have to play within the bounds of their expectations in that B2B partnership.
That's great. Thank you. So we have Taylor Weiss, who has a question about lead source mapping over to Left Main. Theirs isn't mapping over. Is there a process there that we can maybe clarify?
Um, what's the full question there? Let me see. Is that everything?
Yeah, just in the chat. Taylor, please feel free to come off mic if you want to just chat with us.
Yeah. No, I synced it up yesterday. Hey, how's it going, by the way?
Hey.
Hey, so I synced it up yesterday and it pushed through a ton of leads that obviously during the sync up from previous conversations, but it also updated a bunch of my leads that already had been pushed through the CRM, and it changed the lead source from what I had created there as launch control to blank and a lot of them. So I've lost the lead source. So I'm just curious if maybe there is a different way to map over, like when you, because my understanding of it, you move something into a hot lead in launch control, it will send it through and update it as a homeowner lead in Left Main.
Right.
I also wanted to edit the lead source to show as launch control.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just did this yesterday? Did you just make the integration for the very first time yesterday?
Yeah, the integration was available for the first time yesterday for me.
Yeah. Okay. Let me, I'll take that back to our team to take a look at that.
Okay.
That's unexpected behavior. So what we'll want to make sure is that you don't have another automation running in the background that's voiding out that lead source. But typically when you do that sync, it'll update everything to launch control for all those verified homeowners that are marked as hot or warm. It should update that lead source to launch control.
Yeah, I pushed through like 20 leads yesterday out of nowhere, or updated the ones that were already in there, and it changed the lead source from what I already had in as launch control, and it just deleted it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, we'll take a look at your account specifically and just make sure there's nothing else at play.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. I have Connor Grover over here who's wondering, when might launch control users expect to learn more information about why some batch sending has been paused and how they can improve it in the future and or prevent it at all?
We're going to be rolling out solutions for people. And what we're doing, kind of going back to what Stephanie was saying in the beginning, the industry is at a pivot point, and it's growing up. It's becoming more sophisticated in terms of marketing processes, in terms of marketing engagement flows, and how we do that. Right. So we've had for a 4 or 5 year run, we've had tens of thousands of investors sending millions of messages that say essentially the exact same thing. Right. So it's time to change that narrative and come up with a more nurture focused approach that helps build trust and keep people engaged with us over the length of their decision making process, which again is not always 30 or 60 days. It's often much longer than that. Right. So we're going to help create the content and some new approaches for people that will help establish that engagement nurture first focus. And early testing is going extremely well. We're seeing deliverability rates as high as 95 to 98% because we're taking a new, fresh approach to how we're reaching out to people.
I think this goes in the vein of this question here from Ike also, as to avoiding being labeled as a spam account with these compliance and with these initial text messages. His question specifically was that some spam accounts were shut down before. Is there any way that we can avoid, or any pro tips there, or what to do if your account did get suspended? Anything you can speak to on that?
Yeah, I mean, to avoid it in the first place, we want to have some originality of messages. We want to be able to have that engagement first focus. But there are other things that if you think about it this way, right? At the end of the day, who the carriers are attempting to protect is the recipients, right? The homeowner. And so they want a good experience for that recipient. They want them to get wanted messages. They know with 27 billion text messages being sent every day that there's going to be some prospecting, right? But they want it to be done respectfully. So when a homeowner asks to opt out, you have to honor that opt out. And you have to read between the lines in times where it's quite obvious. Like I saw a conversation recently where somebody in a drip audit, or yes, it was a drip automation, where they said, would you take a cash offer for 57 Green Street? And the person said, no, I've told you 100 times no. And then a month later, they sent them a message, the same message, basically. Said, how about now? Would you take a cash offer for 57 Green Street? And the message was something like, dude, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. Go away. Like, opt that person out, obviously, right? But a lot of people aren't doing that. They're taking kind of a blunt force approach to it. You're going to get marked as spam if you do that, right? But if you put the recipient first and you problem solve for them, right? So if that person, for instance, says, no, I'm definitely not interested in selling. Like, what else could you do to keep them engaged that isn't going to be asking them the same question over and over again, right? So what resource?
Yeah. Oh,
right?
sorry.
So
like you were saying before with emailing them or trying a different outreach, right?
Yeah, try different outreach and try thinking of ways that you can offer them value, right? Like here's the thing that I think a lot of people are probably sitting on that they never use. I was just mentioning this on another call. Like if you talk to somebody and you tell them you're not going to use the word wholesaling, right? But let's say they get wind of what this is and they look it up and they go to YouTube. The only thing you're going to find on YouTube is wholesalers talking to wholesalers. Here's how you make 7 figures in the next 90 days, right? What you're not going to find is interviews with homeowners that were like, you know what, I was in a tight spot. I didn't think much of this route at first. I talked to Stephanie. She walked me through it. She ran through a comparison of listing versus going this route. And you know what? I'm happy I did. I was in a place where I really needed help and she provided help. You won't find that. Right. But I bet everyone in this call is sitting on a ton of client testimonial kind of information, ways that you've helped people in the past, and you could use that to build trust. Right. So there's a lot of really great resources that people already have that they can use to help build trust and push people towards that decision that you want them to make. Something I often tell people to think of when they're texting is look at your discovery calls. What do you say to people, right? What do you say to people? How do you interact with them? What is the tone that you use? Your charm shouldn't start at discovery call because that's not your first touch point. Your first touch point is most likely the first text. And maybe it becomes an email and maybe it becomes a phone call, but how can you use those engagement skills that you have to close deals from the very first touch point, and you're sitting on that information?
I mean, that's the professional approach, right? First of all, omnipresence, the content you have put out there, all the different ways that you establish trust and contact with the homeowner. Those are all huge things that you can do, on top of course, respecting what they say. If they want to be texted, do something else, send them a mail piece or something, Yeah.
That's awesome. I have Donovan here wondering if there's a way to text people that say no thanks, because in their eyes, it's very different from a do not contact, and launch control marks them as a do not contact. Is there a workaround for that?
Well, it depends on, there's 2 ways that can happen, right? Like that, what I'm sorry, I forgot the person's name, but what they're referring to is there were some early tests that we ran with the carriers with different opt-out language. That was specific opt-out language. So that was an active opt-out. Now, if you have a message that says, reply stop to unsubscribe, and they then reply, no thanks, I'm not interested, or I'm not interested right now, they didn't opt out. They didn't use the specific opt-out language in the message, right? So at that point, you can continue to converse with them, but obviously timing is not now timing. So again, how do you play chess there and create that engagement structure via drip automations and launch, via potentially an email campaign through Left Main, via the timing out the times when you reach out by phone to see if you can get them on a call and really have a one-on-one conversation with them. Because I think any real estate investor anywhere, if you have a person on the call and they say, I'm not looking to sell right now, you're obviously going to ask why, right? That their home has certain distress factors. So you're going to want to know if they know all of their options, and if they know, what timing will gain them or will not gain them, right? So there's, you find an opportunity to guide them towards that, again, discovery call where you can really have that conversation with them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And kind of expanding on that topic, we have another question that kind of goes with it, from an anonymous attendee. There are so many stipulations nowadays. Do you have any best practices for initial templates and follow-up templates?
Yeah, we do. And again, part of what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks is giving everybody some guidance on new approaches that they can take. And that doesn't just apply to the initials. That also applies to follow-up sequences, drip automations, a lot of what we're talking about right now, to start to seed some of that strategy to give everybody more insights into, to be repetitive here, and how to play chess, right?
Yeah, and I think you have a bunch of those examples in the system, right? When people are like templates for us, how to choose different text spinners and things like that for these sequences.
Yeah, and if anybody's using Launch and not talking to our customer success team, correct that, because those guys are really a great source of knowledge, and they have all of our best practices, all of our kind of, tricks and hacks. Like you should definitely be working with them, because they can give you a lot of really great guidance on that in that regard. Let's get some Stephanie questions in here. This is
I
a
know,
lot of
right?
you talking.
I know. I see one for me here with Tom. Appreciate you, Tom. So Tom asked, can we continue the conversation from Left Main using the same launch control number, or is it two different conversations? So the answer is not yet. This is one of our, I'll give a little quick teaser that this is kind of phase 2 of our integration, of being able to, have that same experience inside Left Main, that same window and conversation window that you have with your homeowners. So right now, after opt-in, if you pick up the conversation inside Left Main with your phone provider, I think, Tom, you were referencing smartphone earlier. So let's say you have smartphone integrated into Left Main, and you put somebody in a cadence, or you start texting a new lead from smartphone, it'll create another conversation. So you'll transition over to your integrated phone system for those conversations and pick up where launch control left off. We're hoping to release another solution for that shortly, soon, to be coming.
Yeah,
but it will look like two different conversations. So make sure that you reference that and say, hey, I picked up, my colleague XYZ passed me your information. I see here everything that you were talking about, and, make it feel like a seamless handoff.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it.
No problem. Catherine, oh, number 2 on phase 2. These are actually the 2 things that we're working on, with pushing out lists directly from Left Main back into launch, essentially in a bulk, in a batch kind of manner, where you can click to send a campaign over or click to send a list view over. That'll be part of phase 2. So right now, if you want to re-engage a segment of homeowners from Left Main with launch control, for example, maybe you want to do a big text blast follow-up sequence, or you want to blast your buyers list or something like that, you have to export it and then import it into launch control. So we're hoping to get that as part of our phase 2 integration here soon. We've had many people ask about that, so that's coming soon.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, yes.
So I would love to be able to do these some of this stuff in conjunction now, like as a teaser, right? So some retargeting things. So I love what you mentioned about reaching out to buyers, right? So this is something we feel is really underutilized in launch, and the drip automations can be great for this, right? And I think what you could even potentially do, and I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, but just an example of how we can work together. One of the pieces of advice that we give people for building an opt-in list of buyers so you can get them onto a thread is you send them an initial message that says something like, hey, I've usually got 2 or 3 properties available. If you're still actively buying, I've got a closed text group, and I can send you updates when I've got a property. Just reply yes if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll leave you alone, right? And you get a bunch of people who go yes, 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 because it's business to business, right? It's not B2C. And so now you've got them on a short list. Now, whether you do this through launch or you do this through Left Main, you have multiple options. But if you now have them on a text thread where anytime you have the next message you ask them, the next message you ask them is what they're looking for, right? And now you can have curated buyers lists where you know specifically what parameters of they're looking for in the next 60 to 90 days, right? Like, what are you looking to buy in the next 90 days? And you've got specific, not only a buyer's list, but a broken down buyer's list, so that when you do have a property available, you send them a text, say, I've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Oakwood Estates. I know you were looking in that area, interested, right? But little do they know 10 people are on that list or 5 people are on that list. And now you're able to activate multiple buyers, right? So I think there's an opportunity to find some crossover potential even now.
Oh yeah. And segmentation like this is huge. You know, it's like laser pointing instead of shotgun blasting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're speaking to human beings, right? Whether they be buyers or homeowners, we're speaking to human beings, and you change your approach depending on who you're talking to, right? Like, if you can target it down to people that have liens in a neighborhood that you're well aware of, you know exactly who you're talking to, and you know exactly what problem they need solved, right? Whereas if you send text messages to Phoenix, then you have no real insight when they answer that first text, and you don't know much going into the call other than the details that you have from your list on the property. But if you can segment it all the way down so that you know that anytime you send out a batch from launch control, you're talking to a small group of people that have the same problem that you can help solve, and you can apply the same tone, the same talk track, the same ways to advance that conversation, because you've segmented it down to a problem solution dynamic, right? And you're able to solve problems for them. And I think that carries across whether you're doing it in launch or you're doing omni-channel marketing in Left Main. I think that holds true as being a really beneficial way to reach your audience.
Yeah.
All right. We have about 10 minutes before we can wrap up, so let's try and get to a few more questions. I have from Charlotte, who's wondering for launch, what are the factors that are driving high do not contact percentages?
Are we talking about like people opting out? This is due to carriers being more insistent about having stated opt-out in messages, which is part of their compliance rules. Again, remember I said that compliance can be federal compliance, as in what is legal, not legal, and then the carrier level compliance, which is we need you to play ball according to our set of best practices for this business to business relationship. And for that's one of those things where we just have to give people in cold outreach the opportunity, if they want, to opt out. Now, the way that I look at this is that, especially if you're thinking about this as a way of, if you look at data as you don't just have SMS data, you have data as in these people fit certain filtering profiles, right? So if you you got their phone number and their email, right? And they opted out of SMS, they have not opted out of email, They have not opted out of you reaching out by phone. They have not opted out of you, even if you have the opportunity to do some kind of, paid advertising or anything like that might get to them, right? You have multiple different channels you can do and ways that you can get to them. And when you do, and you get them in that more motivated lead sense where they've come to you, you can re-engage with SMS, right? You haven't lost SMS as a tool. They've made their selection at that point. Whereas anybody that stays in and doesn't choose that opt out and keeps that channel open, now you've got their captive attention, right? This is someone who you can advance that conversation, use the drip automations if you need to, use other elements available to you through Left Main. So it's not a loss of data, it's simply a repositioning of data.
I have a question here from Rigo about, can we integrate with Podio through Zapier for Stephanie, or is it easy to export from Podio to Left Main? What's the cost? So there is no integration with Podio for Left Main or for Launch Control. So you'd have to migrate to Left Main in order to use this direct integration. And the process for that depends a little bit on the size of your team. But we have a whole implementation process. So if those of you who are interested in what that looks like, you can shoot me an email after this call. I'm happy to connect with you and take a look at what it would take for you and your team to move over.
That's awesome. That's great. Thanks, Stephanie. Before we wrap up, guys, we have a few more minutes. If anyone wants to ask a couple more questions, we're here for you.
I see one or two questions here about downtime for launch. I know there's been some shuffle with carrier providers, given the whole industry here a little run for our money. Do you want to speak to that at all, Michael, on downtime?
Yeah, so we're working actively to get everybody back online ASAP. We're going to give everyone new, like I said, new content approaches that they can use. We'll be sending out communications to everybody very soon to give additional information. As far as things that are launch control related and anything that is about these account issues, the best thing to do is to go to your customer success rep, and they can talk through all of these questions with you. They're very well versed in this, and we can make that a very launch centric conversation. But for the last few minutes that we have here, what I'd love to hear are anybody's ideas of ways that we can really use Launch and Left Main in that universal view crossover kind of way. Or even if you have questions about ways that we could potentially expand your engagement profile or expand your engagement efforts, I'd love to hear some of those ideas.
Yeah, and I'll just put in the forefront of those. The ones that we are working on are going to be that back and forth syncing of campaigns and segments of homeowners and buyers back and forth from Launch Control. So from Left Main back to Launch Control for re-engagement, and then continuing that conversation directly on platform at Left Main also, having that little text message window that you're familiar with in Launch, being able to reflect that and continue the conversation from inside Left Main. Those are our top two on our priority list for phase 2 of this integration. I would love to hear other ideas too on what you guys want to see in that future integration. We'll be listening out for it too. If no one wants to, automatic tags. That's a good one. All right, cool. Well, we're definitely going to be receiving all this feedback from you guys and following up also post integration. We're going to make this as closely integrated as humanly possible and make all the segmentation and visibility super crystal clear for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to, future state, have really a lot of growth in that opt-in lead, inbound lead side of the business, increased retargeting, and just improved prospecting. So we have really grown-up systems across the board. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yep, the era of the professional, that's for sure.
I love that. All right, to get us wrapped up today, Michael, for those that are on this call that maybe aren't using launch control yet, what would be the best way for them to reach out to your team?
We can just go straight to the website launchcontrol.us. That'll connect you with our sales team. They can figure out what your needs are for your business currently, and then once you sign up, make sure that you work with our CS team and quickly activate that Left Main integration, and you're good to go.
Love it. Simple as that. And we are pretty much the same here at Left Main REI. I posted this link earlier in the chat, but I'll post it again just so you guys have it. If you follow this link, it'll tell you all about the integration as well as a call to action at the bottom to book a demo with our team. And we can get you all situated from there. I also want to mention that there will be a survey that pops up directly after I end this webinar. So if you didn't have a chance to say your suggestions or if you'd like any other kind of question answered, you can just put it right into there and our team will reach out to you shortly. But other than that, I just wanted to let you guys know all again that this webinar was recorded and it will be available to you via email and on our webinar library at leftmainacademy.com. So I want to thank Stephanie and Michael for joining me here today to demonstrate this awesome integration. It's super exciting to have you guys. And I hope that we can have another one soon to go over the new additions that we're all creating. So
Yeah,
thank you again for being here.
Thank you guys
sure.
so much.
Thanks, Evan.
It's been awesome working with you guys and your team, and I'm excited to see where this thing grows.
Yeah, same. Me too. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Have a great day, guys.